Welcome to this week's show. I'm happy to be here with you all today and to share with you a message that I believe that will help us to move forward in these rough and tough times. What I want to talk to you about today is in due season. Acts 20 and 18. The way of a believer is not an easy road. When you become a believer, there's nothing under, or there's nothing that is given or promised to you that the road you're going to be traveling is going to be easy. It was once said that no one promised you an easy life. Life is no guarantee. Being a Christian does not solve or remove all problems. Here in Acts, Paul served humbly and with tears, but he never quit. He never gave up. The message of salvation was so important that he never missed the opportunity to share it. And although he preached his message in different ways to fit different audiences, the message remained the same. Turning away from sin and turning to Christ by faith. Remember, we talked about and we identified the way faith runs with hope. Hope is the substance of things hoped for, but the evidence of things not seen. It is by faith that we hope for things that we cannot see, but it is the evidence. So here, Paul, he turns away, he preaches to turn away from sin and turning to Christ by faith. We turn by faith in hopes that things will change. The Christian life will have its rough times, its tears, and its sorrows, as well as its joys. But we should always be ready to tell others what good things God has done for us. All blessings was received, and his willingness not to give up, it was overwhelmed. It was outweighed by life's decisions. Remember, we talked about decisions. Everybody has a decision. I can't make a decision for you. I can't tell you who to follow. I can't tell you what to believe in. That's a decision that you have to take and that you have to face. But whatever the decision is that you make, then you must understand that there's going to be some ups and downs in the decision that you make. It's not going to be easy regardless. There's going to be some rough spots. There are going to be some days where you're going to cry. It's going to make you cry. Because see, this Christian life, it's not an easy life. It's a rough life because there's so many things that you have to overlook, so many things that you have to take and that you have to endure. See, God, he says that there will be days and there will be times of trials and tribulations. And here I find Paul in that time, in the time to where he's facing some hard times, some hard tribulations. But the good thing about it is he understood that even though he were going through those rough times, everything would work for the good in due season. Everybody has a due season. I don't know when your due season is. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know when my due season is. But I know one thing is God says, my ways are not your ways. And my thoughts are not your thoughts. Because my ways are greater than your ways. And my thoughts are greater than your thoughts. And my ways are higher than your ways. So see, but understand, God has a plan for everybody. And even though we're going through the rough period right now, we're going through the hard trials right now, it's not the trial, it's what we do with what we're going through. Do we waver? Do we give up? Do we stop? Do we say it's all over? No. Not according to God. Because here Paul demonstrates and he shows us that if you don't waver and you stay on course and follow your due season, things will change. So we understand that his blessings was far overweighed by life's difficulties. To everything, understand, and listen to what God says here. God says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heavens. We had some good times. We came through some rough times. But every season brings a change. We have surpassed the 8 years of good leadership in the White House. Barack Obama, even though he had the struggle of facing a Congress that would not work with him or go along with him, he still was able to complete a lot of the things that he had promised the American people that he would do. Think of it this way. John F. Kennedy's inauguration said the most important thing to me as a young man that I ever could have heard. And our problem is we always ask too much of the government, and we always ask too much of the president. Here is what we should do. John F. Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. We lose so much in our society because we depend on government funding. We depend on government leadership, but we fail to realize we need to depend on ourselves. If we depend on ourselves, look what the forefathers, our forefathers wrote in the Constitution, in the Declaration of Independence, that it was what? For the people, by the people. It wasn't for the White House. It wasn't for Congress. It wasn't for the wealthy. It was for the people. they set things, our forefathers set things in the way that they did was to benefit the people. But see, we here have wavered and allowed the government, which our forefathers got us from underneath, and we went back to it because we relied on them. Just think, an investment in yourself is the best investment that you can make. Because one of the things my grandfather taught me was, if you work hard for what you want, no one can take that away from you. You have earned it. It's yours. Don't reach a hand out and look for a handout and look for somebody to put something in it. But you work for it. Paul, he worked for salvation. He did the things that he did in spite of the oppositions that was faced against him. Because he followed the concept. And I'm not veering away from where we are. I just want you to understand that in your due season, and how Paul lays out how he went through his due season and what we need to get through our due season. Yeah, we're facing a hard time because it's, I don't know if I should say this, but it's hell up on Capitol Hill. And the White House is corrupt way far than any administration has ever been. The White House always had its problems, but never in this way. But then again, even though we face what we face with Donald Trump being in the White House, God still says that it's in due season. The devil has its due. It has its time. Sin has its place. But it's not where, it's not because of what it is. It's because of what we perceive. Okay? What am I saying by that? What am I saying by that? I'm saying that just because, see, God says, you know, be not conformed, okay, of the world. In other words, I follow the laws and I obey the laws, but I don't have to, let me say, I don't have to do what the Romans are doing. Paul here, he conformed himself. He did not waver just because of what Roman law was. And when you don't go along with the law, the first thing they want to do is lock you up. They're going to come after you, okay? And Paul didn't care about that, okay? We worry too much about the wrong thing. See, a lot of the conversations we have is about Donald Trump is, you know, what do you think? Well, I don't think nothing about Donald Trump. I could care less about Donald Trump. I could care less about what Donald Trump is doing. Okay? Because, see, Donald Trump cannot send me to hell, and Donald Trump cannot get me into heaven. But in my due season, if I do not waver and I stand and put my trust in God, then God is... See, Matthews tells us, be not afraid of that which can kill the body. See, Donald Trump is killing society right now. He's killing, he's not making America great. He's making America divided. And God is not a God of division. But Matthew says, fear not that is able to kill the body, but fear that is able to kill body and soul. So see, even though I have to you know, back down to the things that is taking place up there on Capitol Hill and in the White House, I don't have to abide by it. I don't have to live by it. I live by the Word. And when you live by the Word of God and you do not waver, you keep yourself in the right direction. You keep yourself in the direction of hope. If you remain faithful and stay hopeful, then your season will change. Solomon points out in this session that God has a plan for all people. See, God has a plan for everybody. But when you get yourself in the way, then that plan is not workable. Look at that. There's 5 things that we need to look at for due season. And we're going to look at those 5 things when we come back out.
My husband has PTSD.
I had never heard the term post-traumatic stress.
The day he got home for the first time I saw him, I knew something was wrong.
My wife left her email account open, and I saw 2 emails with our pastor. Just said, can you please, pray for me and Bill? Things are tough. If I knew Bill was gonna be like this, I would not have married him.
He had almost isolated himself from socializing with anyone.
I found out about the Warrior Care Network through Wounded Warrior Project. The Warrior Care Network program taught us to not avoid our issues, to face them head on.
I feel like he came back to life when he got involved. That's why I say you don't give up.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at the 5 things that we really need to look at to get through our due season. First one is blind. The second is loose. And the third is depart. And the fourth is weep. And then the last one we really want to pay attention to, and that's rest. Let's first look at blind. In Acts chapter 13 and verse 11, God says, and now behold, the hand of the Lord is upon thee, and thou shalt be blind, not seeing the sun for a season. We are in a season of turmoil. And when I say we're in a season of turmoil is because of the simple fact is we have a leader in the White House who can't even understand himself. Donald Trump's base, and I know I'm going to get a lot of bad feedback from this, but you know what? I'm not going to waver. I don't care. With this, God says that the hand of the Lord is upon thee, and thou shalt be blind. Donald Trump base is so far out of touch that they have been blinded by the words which I like to call woo. I speak to you in a normal way without using big syllables and fancy words, is because what is fancy words? Fancy words, and I leave that up to those who have to use them. I don't have to use them because I'm a plain person and I like to talk plain. But fancy words are words of wool. If I talk eloquently enough that I can overwhelm you with just my words. Let me give you an example. We were at a conference, and Bishop Gilbert Errol Patterson, in the message that he had delivered, he informed us to be not overtaken by words. Because see, a person can speak so well that you really don't know what the heck they're talking about. Man, he said, boy, didn't he deliver a good message. He said, wow, what a speaker. He spoke with so much power. And I was like, okay, what was the message? And he looked at me and he said, I don't remember what the title was, but man, I like the way he speak. Come on, dude, really? As they can say in the NFL. Wow. Come on, man. Just because somebody speaks well does not mean, and you can be blinded because of a person's what? A person's wealth, prominence, words, appearances. Here we are. And Luke tells us that when this reign is over, he will depart. We will depart from it. What happens after we depart from this devastating situation? Let me say this. Be hopeful. Be prayerful. Don't allow yourselves to be blind, but loose yourself. Don't waddle in what's going on. Stand fast. The race is not given to the strong nor the swift, but to him that endureth to the end. When we stand and don't waver from where we are, we reap in our due season. Galatians 6 and 9. So don't get tired of doing what is good. Don't get discouraged and give up. For we will reap a heaven of blessings at the appointed time. So now let's take a look at this final key that we need to help us to move forward in our due season, and that's rest. In Revelations 6 and 11, we see and we read John's accounts and his vision with God, and it says that then a white robe was given to each of them, and they were told to rest a little longer until the full number of their brethren and sisters, their fellow servants of Jesus Christ, have been killed. That's kind of hard. Rest just a little longer. Wait just a little longer. Don't allow yourselves to be captivated with today's situations or this season. This season is about to end. It will take care of itself. God is in control, and all he wants us to do as believers is trust in him and wait just a little longer. It looks bad. It looks dark. It looks gloomy. But just remember, don't be blinded by the acts of the White House, the leadership, Congress, and the way that things are going. Don't get blinded. Don't get caught up in fear, but have faith. Come on, servants, and sit down. sit down and rest from this season and wait upon the Lord for anew. Thank you for joining me this week in this episode and in today's show, and I look forward to next week's show, to where we will look at good news. Because even though we're in a sad situation now, there are still some good news. And thank you. God bless you. And yes, there's hope. And let's keep hope alive.